Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Mohammed Hussain. I'm here with a very honorable, a very distinguished guest, Professor Dr. Mohammad Marandi. Dr. Marandi, of course, needs no introduction, but he's a professor of literature at the University of Tehran. He's an anchor or a presenter for Al Mayadeen. He has always been vocal about his support for Iran, and he's been criticized for it. So we want to get an account from Dr. Marandi himself regarding whatever is going on. Thank you so much, Dr. Marandi, for being with us.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Dr. Marandi, I wanted to start off by asking the question. So Donald Trump said that I will come in, we will strike Tehran, and it'll be quick. We'll go there, we'll change the leadership, and you'll see people coming out. And he requested people to come out, but nobody came out. And so the regime change did not happen. Why is it that whatever he was expecting did not happen? And why is it that even today, all of the preconceived notions about Iran are sort of being countered or refuted by whatever is going on in the region and overall in Israel?
The West has a long tradition, excuse me, the West has a long tradition of producing anti-Iranian propaganda and producing narratives about Iran that are false. And many people across the world have come to believe them over the last few decades because Western media has always been so powerful. But the fact is that those narratives are just propaganda. They've always said that the Islamic Republic of Iran is unpopular, the people don't like it, they despise it, they want to overthrow it. That's basically their own wishful thinking that they like to attribute to ordinary Iranians. And during the 12-day war, that's why since they believed their own propaganda, they thought that Iran was a house of cards and that it would collapse, even though it was clear as day that no such thing would happen. And since they never learned their lesson and they continue to promote this nonsense about Iran, and more recently during the violent riots where terrorists murdered hundreds of police officers and volunteers on the streets who were protecting public and private property, they tried to portray those rioters and terrorists and killers as the people. And they made up numbers, fabricated numbers, exaggerating the numbers, even though they're responsible for the deaths of the roughly 3,000 people who died during those terrorist activities on January the 8th and January the 9th. So again, they believe their propaganda and they engage in an even larger war this time. The United States brought everything that it had, all of its air and missile capabilities, yet it failed again. And that is because the people of Iran are steadfast.
Dr. Marandi, it is understood though that if you if you remove the leadership from any society, especially during the time of war, then there will be a collapse in the decision making. There will be a disintegration of organizations and structures. Yet we see that Iran has survived, not only survived, but it has responded very effectively to the United States and Israel. And I don't get this idea of how a country can go on and it can organize itself especially in a time where there's no leadership or where its leaders have been attacked. We see this happening in the Haftatir and Prime Minister office bombings in 1980s and 81. We also saw this in the 12-day war. So it is really amusing for me.
I think it's Orientalists really that influences the way in which the West often looks at Iran. There's always Orientalism involved when the West looks at it. They think that if they murder the leaders, that Iran is dependent on individuals. They don't recognize that this is a very sophisticated society with a constitution, sophisticated state bodies. But in addition to that, the Islamic Republic of Iran is popular. And basically during that first week, it was the people that held the country together. They kept their calm. There was no rush on gas stations or shops. The armed forces immediately responded within less than an hour. and ordinary people immediately started going to the streets in support of him. And the, the the leaders of the country, in accordance with the Constitution, continued to move things forward until the new leader was chosen. And that, of course, negates the whole stereotype of in the West that Iran is the Islamic Republic does not have a popular support or popular legitimacy. It was the people that held this together. And also, one must uh, commend Martyr Ayatollah Khamenei in so many different ways, but one was that he was able to devise a military strategy that was so effective against the world superpower and its combined force. And in his absence, it continued to function like a clock.
Yeah.
So not only was he a man of literature, a jurisprudent, not only was he uh, a, a philosopher, not only was he a thinker, but he was a strategist at the highest level. And his martyrdom, uh, of course, reinvigorated the people to be more resilient and resistant, but the capabilities that were created over decades uh, were enabled the country to defeat the enemy. Iran is a country with thousands of years of civilization, and its culture and religious ideology creates a steadfastness that is quite unique. The grandson of the Holy Prophet, his uh, resistance against the despot of his time, Yazid, is something that all Iranians uh, see as uh, what needs to be done by Iranian individuals and by Iranian society in today's world. And so there is a steadfastness among Iranians that you can find in very few other places. You see it in Hezbollah, you see it in Gaza, you see it in Yemen, and you see it in the resistance in Iraq. And that's why you see every night on the streets of Tehran and other cities, people are out uh, demonstrating in support of the revolution against Zionism, despite the missiles and despite the fact that people have died during the demonstrations because the enemy fired missiles at those demonstrations. Events in Karbala and the martyrdom of Imam Hussain and the role that his sister played have an enormous impact on Iranians from all walks of life. And I think that itself is probably the most important element in this steadfastness that we see on Iranians.
Very interesting, Dr. Marandi, because a lot of people have this conception that people sitting in Los Angeles or in Vancouver who are not living in Iran, the Iranian diaspora is sort of very vocal about the intervention, and they particularly want the intervention. And there's a question about
Well, I should also add
Yes.
that they are not representatives of the Iranian diaspora.
Uh-huh.
These people are funded by Western governments, Western intelligence agencies. There are hundreds of Persian language TV channels that are against Iran based in the West. All of them are funded by Western governments. Media channels. There are troll farms.
Yes.
There are literally tens of thousands of people from among the diaspora who are on the payroll. So it is to be expected that that segment would come out and support any atrocity committed by the Israeli regime or Trump. But overwhelmingly, the Iranian diaspora does not share those sentiments.
Mhm.
But in the West, it is very difficult for people to go out and support Iran because there's a lot of pressure, and supporting Iran can have consequences. So most of the diaspora remains quiet. Some support the revolution and the resistance, and they support Iran against this ugly war and aggression. But those who do the opposite, they are mostly mercenaries, and some of them are people who stole lots of money and left the country, both before and after the revolution.
Yes, definitely. I think there's criticism on, especially the soft colonial element of the Western media, but not just on the mainstream media, but also on the social media. So you see, there's X, for example, the platform which talks about free speech. It it professes to be a liberal sort of a platform where anyone can express their views. But we see a difference in the access that is provided to people with a differing opinion. And Dr. Marandi, there's an account, Terror Alarm on X. It has been on the top trends in Twitter. You've posted about it. Thousands, hundreds and thousands of people have posted about it. They've placed essentially a $1 million bounty on you, and they've said that they will pay this to anyone who captures you. And apparently, it's an AI account linked to Israel and Ukraine. Why hasn't this account been taken down, or what are your views on it?
Well, it is also that tweet is a has a paid partnership,
Yes, I forgot.
which makes it extra interesting. The account hasn't been removed, obviously, but even the tweet hasn't been removed after almost, I think, 3 days now.
Or
The tweet
limited, I
is still
guess.
there, and that's
In the
basically because Elon Musk and X, they support Zionism, they support terrorism, they supported the genocide in Gaza. They shut down many accounts and they shadow bound accounts like mine during these 2.5 years. Of course, other uh, Western or American social media, they are just as bad. I've been removed from Instagram and Facebook years ago. So this is the reality of the West. Western media is simply propaganda. Their social media is uh, very much controlled, and people can promote terrorism against me. They can promote kidnapping me, which probably would lead to torture and death. And yet they will not remove it, and they will continue to allow those tweets to have paid partnerships. That's the reality of the West. So why should we expect otherwise when they're supporting genocide in Gaza and the slaughter of citizens in Lebanon and the sinister war against Iran?
Dr. Marandi, I'm sorry for asking you this question, but I wondered myself. You're under an immense threat, right? Aren't you afraid of any of the consequences of your vocal advocacy or your views?
Intimidated, and I have a responsibility, like others, to defend what is right and to stand up against what is wrong. And I do not fear the consequences.
Dr. Marandi, a lot of people have asked me this question personally because I speak to media a lot about regarding Iran, and they've asked why Iran or how Iran, does not effectively protect its leadership, and why leaders are, being targeted very effectively by Israel and the United States. And the way that I respond to it is I say that Iranians are, they are resilient. Iranian leaders don't hide in bunkers, and they don't fly away to other countries regardless of the propaganda that is done. So I wanted to get your view on this as well, if you're comfortable sharing it with me.
Well, that is true. We saw during the International Quds Day rallies across the country in Tehran, we saw all of the Iranian senior officials participate despite the missile strikes. And despite the fact that a lady was murdered in one of the missile strikes. But in addition to that, I think one has to keep in mind that Iran is fighting not just the United States and the Israeli regime, and the collective West
Mm.
is supporting the United States and the Israeli regime. And their regional proxies are helping them as well. The Arab family dictatorships in the Persian Gulf are all in the Western camp. They all host US bases. They all help the United States bomb Iran and the Israeli regime bomb Iran. They allow them to use their airspace. They allow them to fire missiles from their territory. They allow their jets or planes. uh, Turkey is providing the Israeli regime with oil from Baku. It transports that oil. It's NATO AWACS fly over Turkey to gather intelligence against Iran. U.S. radar installations in Turkey gather information against Iran. Jordan is another regime that hosts U.S. the U.S. Air Force. So you have this massive coalition of the entire collective West, which would include Australia, New Zealand, and Japan and South Korea, along with their regional proxies. And so Iran is really, Iran and the Axis of Resistance are really fighting a very powerful and diverse enemy. Yet, despite that, we see that it has succeeded. It has made sacrifices. We've had martyrs. We've had destruction. But right now, after over 3 weeks, to give up, but that simply will not happen.
Dr. Marandi, what about the critics who, criticize Iran and say that Iran is the one who is escalating this war and Iran is the one creating nuclear weapons? And what about this sort of narrative that is being spread that Iran should restrain itself, or that Iran should sort of look after these Gulf countries or these Arab countries because they are brotherly Muslim countries? What do you have? I mean, you've clarified that these countries have been supporting the United States and Israel, but regarding the long term, is there a possibility that the United States stay in the region and whilst stopping the attacks, or if there is a possibility for ceasefire in this regard and have good relations with Gulf countries?
Well, obviously, that sort of propaganda is false. The International Atomic Energy Agency has said many times that there's never been any evidence that Iran has been trying to produce a nuclear weapon at any time. And even the United States intelligence admits that. Tulsi Gabbard just recently stated that there's no evidence of that. And the head of counterintelligence who recently resigned, Joe Kent, he also said that Iran is not developing nuclear weapons. So these are all lies in order to justify attacking Iran for the sake of the Israeli regime. And of course, Iran's uh, armed resistance today is the fault of the United States and the Israeli regime and those family dictatorships in the Persian Gulf region that gave them bases and that allowed them to use those bases to kill women and children. So Iran is simply defending itself. These Arab family regimes should expel the Americans. Whenever, if they do such a thing, then there will be no conflict. But they cannot expect that for Iran to accept their territory to be used to kill Iranians, and then Iran sits back and does nothing simply because they say they're neutral. That is an insult to our intelligence. If, for example, in the Germans had military bases in France and used them to fire missiles at England or the UK, and France said, I'm neutral, do you think any sane person in the UK would accept that logic? Of course not. All of these regimes are bound to the West, and they serve the interests of the West, and they allow their territory to be used against the Iranian people, and the Iranians are doing what any sovereign nation would do, and that is protecting its people. And actually, Iran has been very restrained.
Yes.
In the 1980s, these Arab family dictatorships, alongside the United States and the West, supported Saddam Hussein when he carried out a war against Iran, and Iran forgave them then. Then these dictatorships allowed Qatar in particular allowed the United States to use its base there to murder General Soleimani. And now they're allowing the United States to attack Iran. So these claims are unjustified and they are an insult to our intelligence. They, instead of helping with the war with murdering ordinary Iranians, they should expel the American armed forces.
Dr. Marandi, what about Pakistan? What do you feel personally about Pakistan? What do the Iranians generally feel about Pakistan? And where do you think Pakistan should be? And where do you think it is right now in this conflict?
Well, as Ayatollah Said Mujtaba Khamenei said, Ayatollah Said Ali Khamenei, the martyr, loved Pakistan immensely and visited that country. And he wept when he once, and I was at that Friday prayer. He wept when he was talking about a massive flood that Pakistan was suffering from years ago, and asked Iranians to help them. And what Ayatollah Sayyid Mujtaba Khamenei wants is an end to the bloodshed between Afghanistan and Pakistan, so that relations could improve and the enemies of our region would no longer be able to use the differences to their advantage. Iran wants the best for the people of Pakistan and Afghanistan, and without a doubt, the people of Pakistan and Afghanistan support Iran's defense against this brutal and evil empire.
Dr. Marandi, if Israel and United States strike today on the power plants in Tehran, in other cities, what do you think will happen?
Iran will immediately retaliate and strike the power plants and vital infrastructure of those regimes in the Persian Gulf that are hosting U.S. bases through which these attacks are taking place on a daily basis.
Thank you so much, Dr. Marandi. It was wonderful having you with me. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us.